1922. The world holds its breath as Howard Carter makes the discovery of a lifetime in Egypt as Valley of the Kings. After years of relentless searching, he's finally found it. The untouched tomb of the boy king. The entrance is unsealed, revealing treasures beyond imagination: golden chariots, magnificent statues, and a solid gold coffin holding the pharaoh's mummy. It's a moment of pure triumph for archaeology. But this monumental discovery would soon be overshadowed by a dark and persistent legend: the curse of the pharaohs. The story of the curse began almost immediately. The first to fall was Lord Carnarvon, the expedition's wealthy financier. Just months after the tomb was opened, he was bitten by a mosquito in Luxor. The bite became infected, and he died soon after from blood poisoning. The legend says that at the exact moment of his death, all the lights in Cairo mysteriously went out. Even more bizarre, back in England, his beloved dog, Susie, howled and dropped dead. At the same time, coincidence, or was this the first act of a supernatural revenge? The media, hungry for a sensational story, latched on to the idea of a curse. They reported that an inscription found inside the tomb read, "Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the peace of the king." While no such specific inscription has ever been definitively proven to exist, the narrative took hold. The public was captivated. Was this the pharaoh's spirit protecting his eternal rest? Soon, the list of victims seemed to grow. George J. Gould, a wealthy American visitor to the tomb, died from a fever shortly after his visit. Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, a radiologist who x-rayed Tutankhamun's mummy, supposedly died of a mysterious illness. Prince Ali Kamel Fahmy Bey of Egypt was shot and killed by his wife after he was photographed visiting the tomb. Even Howard Carter's personal secretary, Richard Battelle, was found dead in his bed, a suspected smothering. His father, Lord Westbury, devastated by his son's death, then jumped from his 7th-floor apartment. The press connected every death, every misfortune, to the curse. The story snowballed, creating a chilling tale of ancient wrath reaching across millennia. But let's pause and look at this with a skeptical eye. Were these deaths really the work of a pharaoh's curse? Or is there a more rational, scientific explanation? Let's break down the facts. The central figure, Howard Carter, the man who first entered the tomb and spent a decade cataloging its contents, lived a full life. He died in 1939 at the age of 64, a full 17 years after the discovery. If the curse was real, why would it spare the one who disturbed the tomb the most? In fact, a study published in the British Medical Journal examined the survival rates of the Westerners who were present when the tomb was opened. They compared the 44 individuals exposed to the supposed curse with a control group of people who were in Egypt at the time but not at the tomb opening. The result: there was no statistically significant difference in their life expectancies. The cursed individuals didn't die any younger on average than their uncursed counterparts. Many of them lived long, healthy lives. Lady Evelyn Herbert, Lord Carnarvon's daughter and one of the first people to enter the inner chamber, lived until 1980, dying at the age of 7. So, if it wasn't a supernatural curse, what could explain the deaths that did occur? Let's start with Lord Carnarvon. His death was tragic, but not unexplainable. He was already in poor health before he even arrived in Egypt, suffering from chronic lung issues after a serious car accident. His immune system was compromised, a simple mosquito bite turning into a fatal infection. While unfortunate, is a medically plausible event, especially in the 1920s, before the widespread use of antibiotics. The citywide power outage in Cairo, those were actually quite common at the time. And the story of his dog, that's a classic example of a good tale getting better with each telling. But what about the other deaths? Could something inside the tomb itself have been dangerous? This is where science offers some truly fascinating possibilities. For 3,000 years, the tomb was a sealed environment. Inside, organic materials like food offerings, floral wreaths, and even the mummy itself would have decomposed. This process could have allowed dangerous pathogens to thrive. Scientists have suggested that ancient molds and bacteria, trapped for millennia, could have been present. Spores of fungi, like aspergillus, could have been released into the air when the tomb was opened. For someone with a weakened immune system like Lord Carnarvon, inhaling these spores could indeed have triggered a severe and even fatal respiratory infection. This is sometimes called tomb fungus theory. Think of it like this. You reopening a container that has been sealed for 3,000 years. Who knows what kind of microscopic life has been growing in there? Modern archaeologists are well aware of these risks. They now wear protective gear, including masks and gloves, when entering newly discovered tombs. They didn't have that knowledge or those precautions back in the 1920s. Another scientific theory points to the air inside the tomb. The decay of organic matter in a sealed space could have produced toxic gases. Things like formaldehyde, hydrogen, sulfide, and ammonia could have accumulated to dangerous levels. When the seal was broken, the sudden release of this trapped, toxic air could have been harmful to anyone standing nearby. While a brief exposure might not be fatal, it could certainly cause illness, especially for those with pre-existing conditions. There's also the possibility of bat guano. While Tutankhamun's tomb was famously sealed, other tombs are often home to colonies of bats. Bat droppings, known as guano, can harbor a fungus called histoplasma cups. When disturbed, its spores can become airborne and, if inhaled, cause a lung disease called While we don't have evidence of bats in Tut's tomb, it's a known hazard in Egyptology and could explain illnesses associated with other tomb explorations. So, we have a series of unfortunate but explainable events, amplified by sensationalist journalism, and the very real possibility of scientific hazards, like toxic mold and bacteria. The curse becomes less about a pharaoh's magic and more about a combination of bad luck, poor health, and the dangers of disturbing an ancient, sealed environment. The myth, however, is powerful. It speaks to our fascination with ancient Egypt, our respect for the dead, and our love for a good mystery. The idea that a king could protect his tomb from beyond the grave is a much more exciting story than fungal spores and blood poisoning. The curse transformed a historical event into a modern legend, a cautionary tale that has captivated us for a century. It ensures that King Tutankhamun isn't just remembered as a historical figure, but as the master of a tomb that carried a deadly secret. Ultimately, whether you believe in a supernatural curse or a scientific explanation, both seen and unseen, that can accompany them, the line between history and legend is often blurred, and in the case of the Boy King, that's what makes his story so eternally compelling. Was it a curse, or was it science? Perhaps the true mystery isn't what killed these explorers, but why we remain so fascinated by the possibility that it was something from another world. See you next time.